Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer. Gary Ridgway, also known as the Green River Killer, is one of the most prolific serial killers in American history. Between the early 1980s and 1990s, Ridgway confessed to murdering at least 71 women, though the total number of victims is believed to be higher. His crimes primarily took place in the Seattle and Tacoma, Washington, areas. Ridgway's case is notable for the length of time it took to capture him and the extensive efforts by law enforcement to solve the case. Background: Gary Leon Ridgway. Born February 18, 1949, in Salt Lake City, Utah. Early life: Ridgway had a troubled childhood, marked by a difficult relationship with his domineering mother and a propensity for violence from a young age. He was known to wet the bed into his early teens, which would anger his mother. Ridgway also had low academic performance and was held back a year in high school. Military service: after high school, Ridgway joined the Navy and served in Vietnam. Upon his return, he struggled to hold down steady employment, although he eventually found work as a truck painter, a job he held for 30 years. Marriages: Ridgway was married 3 times, and his relationships were often marred by infidelity and domestic issues. The murders. Pattern and victims. Target: Ridgway primarily targeted vulnerable women, many of whom were sex workers or runaways. He would pick them up along the Pacific Highway south in Seattle. Method: he typically strangled his victims, often with ligatures, and disposed of their bodies in wooded areas around the Green River, earning him the moniker Green River Killer. Body disposal: Ridgway would dump the bodies in clusters, sometimes returning to the sites to engage in necrophilia. First victims. 1982, the first known victims, including Wendy Caulfield, Deborah Bonner, and Marcia Chapman, were found in the Green River. The discovery of multiple bodies in and around the river initiated the investigation. Early efforts. Task Force: in response to the murders, a special task force was established in 1984, led by the King County Sheriff's Office. The task force included seasoned detectives and behavioral experts from the FBI. Profile and suspects: early profiling efforts suggested a local, middle-aged white male with a deep-seated hatred for women. Despite numerous suspects, Ridgway managed to evade capture for nearly 2 decades. Challenges. Limited technology: the technology available in the 1980s and early 1990s, particularly in forensic science, limited the ability to definitively link Ridgway to the crimes. Evolving M.O. Ridgway's ability to adapt his methods and his familiarity with the areas where he disposed of bodies made it difficult for law enforcement to track him. Breakthrough and arrest. DNA evidence. 1990s advances in DNA profiling in the late 1990s provided the breakthrough needed. Evidence collected from the victims during the initial investigations was retested using more advanced DNA techniques. Arrest. On November 30, 2001, Ridgway was arrested after DNA evidence conclusively linked him to the murders of 4 women: Marcia Chapman, Opal Mills, Cynthia Hines, and Carol Christensen. Confession and plea deal. Plea agreement. Facing the death penalty, Ridgway entered into a plea agreement in 2003, confessing to the murders of 48 women in exchange for a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Detailed confessions. Ridgway provided detailed confessions and led investigators to the remains of several victims who had not yet been discovered, further corroborating his involvement in the crimes. Sentencing and imprisonment. Sentencing. Life imprisonment. In December 2003, Ridgway was sentenced to 48 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 480 years for tampering with evidence, disposing of the bodies. Incarceration. Current status: Ridgway is serving his sentence at the Washington State Penitentiary in Walla Walla. He has been involved in various interviews and documentary projects, providing insights into his motivations and methods. Impact and legacy. Victim impact. Families. The families of Ridgway's victims have had to endure decades of pain and uncertainty. Many found some measure of closure through Ridgway's confessions, though the loss and trauma remain profound. Public awareness. The case brought significant attention to the vulnerabilities of sex workers and runaways, highlighting the need for better protection and social support for at-risk populations. Law enforcement. Forensic advances. The Green River case underscored the importance of advances in forensic science, particularly DNA profiling, in solving cold cases. Task force model. The task force approach used in the investigation became a model for handling complex serial murder cases. Cultural impact. Media coverage. The Green River Killer case has been the subject of numerous books, documentaries, and films, reflecting ongoing public fascination with serial killers and the complexities of criminal investigations. Public policy. The case influenced public policy and law enforcement practices, emphasizing the need for better coordination and resources in serial killer investigations. Conclusion. As we explore the case of Gary Ridgway on True Crime, we will delve into the detailed timeline of events, the investigation, and the broader societal implications of this chilling case. Join us as we examine the evidence, the impact on the community, and the ongoing debates about justice, law enforcement, and the psychology of one of America's most infamous serial killers. The story of Gary Ridgway serves as a grim reminder of the depths of human depravity and the enduring quest for justice in the face of unimaginable evil.